everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for spending a few minutes of your time here with me today. And we are going to be talking a little bit more about the very unpopular decision by Amazon CEO Andy Jassy to force Amazon workers back into the office 5 days a week. As you may recall, Amazon, like many companies, went fully remote when COVID hit. Turned out Amazon was still pretty productive. In fact, maybe just as productive as before. But eventually Amazon wanted people to come back to the office 3 days a week. And now they're pulling the plug. They're pulling off the Band-Aid. It's saying, okay, you got to come back 5 days a week, or you might want to find somewhere else to work. Now, that has been the attitude, but do employees have any legal recourse? Now, this article is titled, "Take My Money and Leave. Amazon employees are slamming CEO Andy Jassy's demand to return to the office 100% in 2025, but do American workers have a legal right to work from home?" This is by Christy Bieber. Interesting last name. She probably gets a lot of flack for that name. So let's look at this article. So Amazon employees are up in arms over a recent note from CEO Andy Jassy alerting them to a change in policy about remote work. In a September 16th letter, Jassy said that employees would be expected to return to the office 5 days a week, barring extenuating circumstances or a remote work exception, beginning on January 2nd, 2025. So, at least you have New Year's Day off. As Jassy pointed out, some of our teammates may have set up their personal lives in such a way that returning to the office consistently 5 days per week will require some adjustments. But he's made clear that this isn't optional given the type of team he'd like to create. Unsurprisingly, however, many workers aren't pleased with the forced change. The big question, though, is what can they do about it? And I'm going to say, spoiler alert, not much, unfortunately. Do you have options if your employer ends a remote work policy? Amazon, like many companies, went fully remote during COVID but shifted to a hybrid schedule in May of 2023. Under that policy change, workers were required to come into the office 3 days a week. At the time, 1,000 employees staged a walkout to protest and 30,000 signed a petition requesting a retraction of the new requirements to be in office. Those employees who express their opinions through walkouts and petitions may enjoy protections under the National Labor Relations Act, which gives all workers the right to engage in, quote, protected concerted activity, including strikes, picketing, or protesting, as long as the employees are responding to a work-related issue that concerns their interests. It's up to the NLRB to determine whether the activity is protected, though, and employers are typically allowed to bring in temporary employees when their regular staff stops working for a protest. In some cases, this type of activity will prompt employers to reconsider their position or to work with their staff members to find a mutually agreeable solution. And keep in mind, 1,000 people walking out isn't exactly a small number of people. That's a pretty good chunk of people right there. But, there's a lot of people who want to work for Amazon. So in this case, like in Amazon's case, however, the 3-day-week policy that the workers were protesting went into effect, and the CEO has now doubled down by mandating workers begin coming in 5 days a week. Since the company wasn't responsive last time, they probably won't be swayed by the anger workers are currently expressing. Many aired their grievances in internal Slack channels seen by Business Insider, including some who expressed a desire to get fired or a plan to take their money and find work elsewhere, aka sell like stock options and things like that. Unfortunately, while those workers can express their anger and even stage further protests, ultimately they may have few choices but to come back to work, quit, or as some say in their plan, force Amazon to terminate them for failure to perform. So yeah, unfortunately not much you can do to sway the big A. Like, we need like a nickname for Amazon. You know how like when you talk about Disney, we refer to them as the mouse and things like that? We got to do something to refer to Amazon, and obviously we can't refer to Jassy because unlike Jeff Bezos, he's not as popular. Now, are there times when an employer can't force you back to work? The general rule in the United States is that workers are at-will employees. They can be fired for any reason or no reason at all, and failure to return to the office when required would certainly be a justification for letting them go. There are some limited exceptions to this rule. If someone has an employment contract negotiated on their own or as part of a union, then an employer can't violate its terms. If it says staff can work remotely, employers must allow them to do so unless they can renegotiate the deal. Likewise, being able to work from home is sometimes considered a reasonable accommodation for disability, although this is more likely when an employer does allow some telework, and it usually won't be an option if the company can accommodate the disability in office. The bottom line is that Amazon workers are probably out of luck and just have to head back to the office. And the same is true for others who may be working remotely but whose companies change the rules. If your employer says you must come to the office, you'll need to listen or look for another position with a remote-friendly business that won't force you to make that dreaded commute. So yeah, big spoiler, no one's surprised, but if you don't like the fact that Amazon, in particular this man, is forcing you back into the office, you don't really have a whole lot of options at your disposal. You basically are going to go back to the office or you're going to quit. That is what it's going to come to. Now, again, I don't agree with Amazon. I do believe Amazon is the bad guy in this. It has been proven. We have the data that people tend to be more productive at home, and basically all of this excessive corporate buildings for these big offices, it's so wasteful to the American economy. We could be turning those buildings into affordable apartments and things like that. Basically, remote work is the future, and I think it's going to happen at some point. We all got a taste of it, and it's going to be really hard to put the genie back in the bottle. But you're going to have the biggest companies like Amazon, Chase, the companies that really feel like they can walk all over you saying, come back to the office. And the thing is, they will probably mostly get away with it. But again, one company's loss is another company's gain. Some of the companies that I have worked for in the last few years have now gone completely remote. There's really like no reason for them to have offices anymore, and they've gotten rid of their offices. So, remote work has made a difference, but Amazon feels differently. They want you to use that foosball table that they so generously got you, even though they're breaking your back so that you probably can't even play foosball. Anyway, this is like basically the end of the line. Unless a bunch of people decide to up and quit, I don't expect this to be in the news for much longer. But I would like to ask, are you affected by this? What do you think of Jassie's return to work mandate, and would you consider looking for another job if you were put in this position? I would love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.
Hey, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Just a few more things. First of all, the names that you see on the screen, these are our Patreon and YouTube member supporters, and I thank each and every one of them. Their support helps me make exclusive videos for Patreon and YouTube members, as well as keep the channel running, and of course is just of huge kindness to me. Also, don't forget to check out the iCritic-led podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Deezer, whatever podcasting service you listen to, it is there. We definitely want to see you there. And hey, there's also other videos that you can check out. So, check out these other channels, these other videos, especially that one. I think that's a really good one.